Welcome to Come and See, your podcast for finding truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by Living Waters Abide Ministries. With host and founder, Richard Case, and co-host and retreat leader, Kathy Ricconi. Today is our special guest day, where we will hear from a friend in the ministry who will share their insight and stories on truth in this chaotic world. And now your host, Richard Case.
Well, good morning, everybody. This is Guest Thursday, and we have a very special guest, Kathy, that is my grandson, Joshua.
I think the last time we had him on here, he was about to be a freshman going into Baylor, and now he's heading into his senior year.
Yeah, he's a senior about ready to get out of Baylor.
Exactly. Lots of catching up to do.
Oh, my goodness. It's amazing. It's hard to fathom that he's about ready to enter the workforce. And not be a student anymore. But we've had a great summer being together, a privilege for us to spend the time together. And he's had some great adventures this summer as well. And now he's heading off. He'll be leaving tomorrow, driving back to Baylor and then getting going in his final year. So welcome, Joshua.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you again.
Why don't you, again, just bring us up to date as to what's your major, what you've been doing the last couple of years, and what you're going to finish your degree in here at Baylor.
Yeah. So good morning. Thanks for y'all for having me. I started, my college career as an engineer at Baylor. Found out about a year later, starting my sophomore year, that I was switching to business, and I'm sure we'll get into more of that. But really diving into meeting new people, my faith, my leadership skills, and really watching, looking back on where I thought I was going to be and where I am now. I'm very thankful for that journey. But also realizing that wasn't my intentions, and that God's will was very much different than what I expected. Really processing how to discern what God is having for you and where he's leading you, and kind of looking forward to what the future is even now, and in deciding decisions on a macro and micro level.
When you went through that, because you started as a major in engineering, and you had a little bit of a sense that, and this is where, I think there was a sensitivity to the spirit of, it doesn't feel great. And it wasn't like it was awful and he couldn't, not that he couldn't do it. It just didn't feel great. When it didn't feel great, how did you then walk through, should I reconsider a different major? And how did you walk through that and even come to a ultimately confirmation that God said, actually, what I want you to do is over here? Because it wasn't just, it's uncomfortable, so I'm going to go do something else. And he chose what to do. He said, there's something off a little bit. But then what did you do? How did you approach it?
I mean, honestly, I called him.
That's a good grandpa.
A lot of making big decisions and stuff is seeking out counsel and seeking out, other people, their opinions, and trying to get out of your own headspace and looking into the actual reality of what you're facing. And, engineering is a very hard major. It's a very hard challenge. And hats off to all of those people that can do it. Not saying I can't do it, not saying I didn't want to do it, but they came down to a point of, like you said, this not only doesn't feel right, but this just isn't what I desire anymore. What my original desires don't outweigh what my desires are now.
Right.
And, discerning okay, what does God have for me now? Where am I going with that? And really seeking out people, seeking out wisdom, and really going through hey, this is how I'm thinking, this is how I'm feeling, and I'm matching my logical thoughts with my emotions, and trying to discern, okay, what is from God, what's from the enemy. And obviously the biggest thing is that God does not want you to live in a state of confusion. That is
so true.
That's earthly living. And I feel like a lot of people at least that I've seen in college, like I don't know the statistic, but I remember at least my dorm, like more than 50% of them changed their minds on what they wanted to do.
Right.
And that's okay. I
Very
think
normal for that to happen.
realizing
Yes.
that, yeah, is very, very much okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so coming to conclusion of, I was actually I was on spring break. I was on it was like a outdoor trip through Baylor.
Mm-hmm.
And we were backpacking in Utah, and I
Oh,
was
fun.
very much clarity of like, I'm definitely not where I want to be going.
Mm-hmm.
And I can stick it out. I can rough it. I can, suck it up, I guess. But this isn't it.
Right. And there wasn't that joy and excitement about what was ahead.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. And so I guess for me, it was very much of seeking out people that I thought had very good wisdom and who knew me best,
Mm-hmm.
and was like, okay, here's my thoughts, here's my feelings, and going through like, I know I'm not going to make this decision tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
and I think there's an element of dependency upon God for that, of being like, okay, it's okay that I'm not going to have this answer in the next day, week, maybe even month.
Mm-hmm.
And for some people that might even be years, but like still trusting God and still having the discipline to understand, okay, I'm going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless. Like, the Lord loves me, I love the Lord, and we're going to walk through this process of deciding. And
Mm-hmm.
honestly being in a state of, I don't need to, it's either this or it's that. Like, I'm juggling the options, but I'm not forcing my mind on a specific option.
Mm-hmm.
And then that may not be for a major or a job, but that could be for anything. And so,
yeah. And as you were, you're going through, what we call the ask, seek, and knock mode which is, asking God for his will, seeking information to understand it, and then ultimately find out, knocking of, is this the one? Which Joshua properly said, then it's God's timing, and don't try to force it, which he didn't. He just said, I don't need to make this decision immediately. I know God's going to show me, so I'll just walk, forward with it. What do you remember? What prompted when you finally started to look at supply chain and business? Because I know you were looking at lots of different things at that point. And Joshua has some very broad interest in, military, law enforcement, all kinds of things. You were, when you were in high school, you did something for Castle Rock Police. What were you part of here?
Yeah, I was part of their Explorers program, where they basically recruit like from 16 to 21 years old, and they start teaching you tactics, learning how to talk to people, learning,
instead of shoot them all the time.
The justice system, and how to properly both handle tough situations is what they were really teaching you, because they can teach you, you can walk through how to shoot, how to do all this, sort of police activity work. But really the biggest thing is, how are you handling relationships and how are you handling conflict?
Yeah.
That's some good lessons right there.
Yeah. It was fun to, we get to be around him when he was part of some of those activities. So it was really fun. You had a variety of interest. What was it that came to you of this supply chain and business might be something of interest? How did you come into that place, which you then started to pursue more deeply?
Yeah. I'll be honest, I was very not anti-business, but just I didn't see myself in that sort of field. And so I think honestly swallowing my pride a lot and realizing, that there are things out there within certain areas that I may think I don't like. And just because I think I don't like it doesn't mean I won't like it.
Right.
And kind of realizing like God's way is way better than my way. And going through, they have like major tests or information that you can seek out of like, hey, this is what my personality matches. This is what, I'm seeking for in a career, and starting there and kind of working backwards. But then also it's just working both directions of, how do I enjoy my college, lifestyle, but then also, go for the goals that I want and the,
Right. And
the,
ultimately land with the life and the career that would bring you the
yeah,
most joy, that you're most well suited for, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So what was it about supply chain that interested you? How did that come to you?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, maybe I should pursue that.
I liked a lot of the critical thinking. I think that's where engineering and supply chain very much overlapped, because there were things about engineering that I still liked. And so I loved the solving the issues, solving big problems, complex problems, but then also working with people on that, and having those relational skills to be able to communicate effectively so that you are overall achieving a successful goal.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I love optimizing things, which is a lot of supply chain, and finding, because there could be hundreds and hundreds of solutions, but what stance are we at now? What stance are we going to be at? And how do we optimize to that best solution?
And as you were, because remember, he's seeking, so he's looking at lots of different options, and supply chain business started to kind of pop up as something maybe of interest. So we said, why don't you go pursue that a little bit further? Because remember, God's got to take the wide opportunities down to this one, So he did. Okay, I'm going to look at that more seriously. Who did you wind up talking to now as you were trying to confirm that, yep, this is where God wanted me? Because you started to narrow it down and say, okay, I'm going to look at supply chain more deeply. Who did you talk to, and how did you come to God saying that, there you go, this is what I want you to do?
All honesty, I talked to my engineering professor. She's very insightful. She knew my struggles. She knew what I liked, what I didn't like, where I, was not having a good time in. And she was very reaffirming and was like, hey, like we've had so many conversations. We've talked about how your brain works, how God made you to be. And like, this seems like it could be a good fit for you, and you're excited about it. So that also was a big thing, was once you lose that kind of exciting piece of it, it's harder to get that back. And it's harder to actually strive for the things that you want to go do.
Yeah. And then again, she was prompting, somebody who's obviously would be motivated to keep them in engineering.
Right.
Said, yeah, I think that's a good idea. And I know you went and talked to the business school and kind of looked at, okay, what kind of program now does that look like, given I'm now going to be a sophomore coming up? What does that look like, and can I graduate on time, and what courses do I need to take? And that seemed to have confirmed when you started to talk to the business school that you felt good about that.
Yeah. And the practicality of it too was very important, I think, because if it's, at that point I wanted to get done with college in 3 years, and I had some courses that counted, but a lot of it didn't. And so, realizing the practicality of, can I get this done, and what will result with that, was very important.
Yeah. Yeah. And the question, which is what we ask everybody, is, when he says, I believe that God's will is for me to go to supply chain. And the question is really simple, is, are you at peace with that? And do you feel confirmed with that? And the answer was, yeah, he did. And so the Spirit, gave yes, that this is yes, and everything lined up, and he did. So he made the switch going into a sophomore year. And because of that, his dad, which is, my son Peter, works for Lockheed, and Lockheed has internships. So how did you wind up? Because Peter, the way they operate at Lockheed is, they don't, just because you're a son of somebody, you're going to get in. You can be identified as somebody as a potential, but then it's up to Joshua,
right,
and their view of Joshua. So how did you then approach or get into being an intern 2 years in a row now? And because, and this is always fun, but he was in supply chain, so they had an internship in supply chain.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. I think very long story, but part of the switch too was, between engineering and supply chain, was I was in Air Force ROTC. So that was a whole other influential factor that was like, okay, I'm doing a lot of hours in engineering, a lot of hours in ROTC, and I'm trying to juggle all of this at once. And I'm too overloaded. My capacity is way overdone. So it came down to, I have to pick. you know, part of it is I'm an engineer or I'm going into the Air Force. Didn't choose engineering. A year later, didn't choose Air Force.
Interesting.
So it was a very when I very much say it wasn't a point A to point B of college career. This was a very roundabout navigational way, and all of it is not on accident, and not even. And I don't believe that it was either. I will, I think you can look at things that you've done in a very like I don't know regretful way, or you can use it to your advantage. And a lot of the skills that I learned in ROTC, as well as the information I gathered through engineering, both helped me to where I am today.
Absolutely.
And I'm grateful, very thankful for those opportunities and for those people that I met, as well as the experiences I had, because that's what made up my career. It wasn't the original point A, point B. It was, this led to this, that led to this in a very, very short time span.
Right. And there was a skill set. I mean, you're referring to this, but God puts us in places, in relationships, in classes, in major, all of these things, not always for the end product that we see or what the world sees as what the goal of that should be, but exactly what you're saying, to give us some point of preparation that we're going to need for future. And it may not look like such a straight path, but I love what you said when we first started this. You were talking about how a lot of people can sit in the midst of this season of trying to, and you've seen your friends do it, trying to determine the major and feel like they're in chaos and confusion, and yet you sat there, yes, questioning things, yes, seeking God, but also saying, oh no, I'm fine because I'm with God. And so because you had that rock to stand on, you were able to step back and not rush ahead and not second guess and not live in regret, but to stand firm and say, okay, God, what do you have for me to take from this? And what is my next step? Where are you leading? Where do you want me to step next? And literally just take it little by little, which allowed you, I believe, to be present where he had you in that moment and to literally glean and learn what he needed you to learn from that to take forward, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful. And then now you're going into your sophomore, going into junior year. He had to apply at Lockheed. All Peter could do is just tell him how to apply. That's all. And they purposely don't pick somebody just because somebody else is working at Lockheed. You got to stand on your own, and they got to think you're worthy of joining them. And he was selected, and they put him in supply chain. How has that experience been for you now? You've done it 2 summers in a row between sophomore and junior, now junior and senior. He did Lockheed in the same department 2 years in a row. And how has that experience been for you?
Yeah, so tying this kind of all together, but a lot of my Air Force knowledge and presentation skills and communication skills, I think honestly played the role in getting to that next step. And as much as I wanted to be a pilot, I'm also very happy to have that meet those new people and learn a different side of I guess military industry, military studies, and that aspect of nationalism in those people. So it was good. It was a lot of hard work, a lot of challenging work, but again, using those skills that I've acquired in the past to, really come forth and really, impact other people and hopefully reflect the work that God is doing through me. So.
Yeah. And when you think of supply chain, you're again dealing with vendors and stuff, and he matured through that process so that this summer, I know they sent you out to a vendor out in California. What kind of things were you doing when you went and visited a vendor?
A lot of it I can't actually share, but
no detail. You'd have to kill us if we did.
It was a lot of just analyzing process, looking through their supply chain, looking through the stuff that they use, and and honestly just trying to help them out and give them the benefit of the doubt, as well as try and optimize good solutions for them, good ways of creating effective business. Nationwide. And so a lot of their processes, you try and give them just helpful stuff. It's overall like supply chain is just, it's very much a cooperative business. It's one, if you really want an effective, business for yourself, it's a lot of helping other businesses and making sure that, they are, meeting delivery times, that they are, having effective strategies, because if they suffer, then you're suffering. And so, I think a lot of this can also reflect in a biblical stance of, if you're in a community with other people, and, if one of you's struggling, you're all helping, it's all hands on deck, and approaching it with a healthy stance of, how can we help you to be better? Because when you're better, we're better.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah. So that, the fun thing is that, here he's an intern sent out to this vendor, and Joshua's report, as well as the advice he gives them, is that vendor's future. And Lockheed trusted, an intern.
I love that.
To go do that because of Joshua has advanced. So it's been a great experience just to learn things of, because when you go from college of learning the, kind of the educational piece of it, but then to actually put it into practice makes a big difference. And he was privileged. God reinforced his decision of, I'm going to show you the reality of how this works, preparing you for your future, which we'll talk about next session. So,
and you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic.
So, Heavenly Father, we're excited about how you've walked Joshua into his place. As he said, it's not A to B. It's just walking, and there's forks in the road and sometimes roundabouts and just things that have to be processed. It was a joy to see his patience of willingness to not act until you confirmed. And then once you confirmed, he moved forward and now is in a place where he's getting ready to launch his career as he finishes Baylor. And so we just pray for favor and for him to continue to live that way the rest of his life. And we thank you in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Josh. It is great to catch up and just hear what God's doing in and through you. If you have questions today, listeners, be sure to send them to us at questions@abideministries.com, and we'll see you next time.
Yep, we'll see you then.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Come and See, your podcast for truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by Living Waters Abide Ministries. Send us your questions and comments, and tune in tomorrow for more answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. Remember, God's will is best and none better. His truth brings peace in this world of chaos.